I am Seamus Blackley, and I'm the guy who has to figure out how to convince everybody to buy an Xbox. I get fired if Xbox games suck. Well, I was actually the guy who wrote the first Xbox memo, so I've been on the Xbox team longer than anyone else. I was working in the DirectX group. We were trying to think of ways to make gaming on Windows better, and the ultimate example of ease of gaming is a game console. It came together kind of like an illegal poker game. A bunch of guys who just like to hang out together realized that it was a really good idea. In the current environment, I don't think any company besides Microsoft could really compete with Nintendo or compete with Sony. The idea of getting into this arena as a software company, not as a hardware company, not as kind of a toy company, is exciting because it means that the rules can really change for the way that the game industry works. And so I think when we thought about Xbox, at the very beginning, we really thought that we could create an agent of change, that we could create a vehicle that would usher in this new age of video gaming that everybody likes to pontificate about, but in a very real way. The toughest thing about Xbox was not hardware, software technology at all. The technology is easy. The toughest thing about Xbox was getting Microsoft to understand that the game business is an entertainment business. It's not a technology business, and it's not a software business. My favorite quote is, never confuse game development with software development. There's software involved, right? But that's not actually what you're doing. When you think of Xbox, think of it fundamentally as as an asymmetric multiprocessor environment. Think of it as kind of a band. It's like a rock band. You got your drummer and your lead guitar player and your rhythm guitar player and a bass player and a singer. All of these processors in Xbox are totally independent. And that's very special and new in game console architecture. So the graphics processor in Xbox is really good at lighting. It's very good at surface definition. It's very good at things which are not traditional console graphics processor techniques. Is that bad? No, it's great actually. A great example that I like to give is I'll ask people how many polygons they think the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park had, like the T-Rex model, say, the main close-up T-Rex model in Jurassic Park. The answer is 80,000, which is remarkably low. Well, why is that? Well, it's because to draw something which looks great, you don't add polygons, you add surface detail. You give artists control of what a scale looks like on a dinosaur, of how it glistens. And that's pixel shading. That's vertex shading. And that's what Xbox does. And that's totally unavailable on any other system. So when you see Shrek, you see Halo, you see how great they look, it's because the technology that we put in really enabled the control of the look of a scene to be given to the artists. You know, you want somebody sitting there making this beautiful model and just having Xbox just draw it. Sound is a great example of the general philosophy of everything we thought about on Xbox. Sound is the terrible, like, disfigured stepchild of the game industry. Sound always gets added last. It always gets no budget. It gets no memory. It gets no CPU. The lead programmer always hates the sound programmer. You know, it's this kind of joke in the game industry that you just slap the sound on at the very end, and it gets whatever happens to be left over when the rest of the game runs. And so we decided just that debate just outright by putting a really big, fat, powerful, crazy processor in there just for audio. So aside from the fact that there does need to be some memory allocated to audio for the music, there is absolutely no effect on the game for doing beautiful musical scores and highly complicated simulated audio and 3D audio and Dolby surround and all of these kinds of things are all handled by this audio processor totally autonomously. An artist can sit down in front of an Xbox and directly export a beautiful human figure out of 3D Studio Max or Softimage right into the Xbox, and it draws just as it looks. So that the artist is really now completely in charge of the process. By putting that power into the hands of the artists, you create an entirely different kind of game. You create an entirely different kind of game process. You change the game industry, and you put games on a footing that's more level with other traditional media. Most people don't realize that game developers are artists. Most people don't realize that they come from film and television and from rock bands and all these different places because they love this place where technology and art blend. And the reason that Xbox has such support among people who make games is because it's absolutely, without question, the finest platform to build games for that's ever existed. And the reason is it was designed by people who had been making games, who knew exactly what to do. If you look at Shrek, it's shocking. You see things like, whoa, I didn't know that a game could look so much like the movie. I really feel like I'm playing the movie. It's not just, oh, I recognize that character, he looks a little polygonal, but that's pretty good. It's that you turn on the television and there Shrek is. And it's a kind of a thrill. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing.
Tony Hawk is actually a tremendous example of the Xbox difference in that it's a game that everybody knows and loves, and yet it's really taken to the next level on Xbox. You can see this grass is really grass. It's not some stupid looking texture. It's actually every single blade of grass.
And so the Xbox technology was designed to give that kind of power to the artist. That really is the fundamental dream of Xbox. We're really focusing hardcore on building an online experience for Xbox around games, around stuff that you can only do in games that are connected, right? It's really interesting. You can talk about community and you can talk about massively multiplayer games. You can imagine episodic games in which you get a new level every week. You can talk about downloadable stuff. You have to open your mind to every new idea you possibly can imagine. But at the same time, that imagination has to be tempered with what you know is true. And it's the same kind of imagination that has to go into online. And it's something which really only Microsoft has at this time. We want to really change the experiences you have when you play a game, but at the same time, there's nowhere else on earth where people have as much experience with the reality of broadband adoption, billing, infrastructure issues, like how to frame relays work, all of these different, terrifying minutiae that could kill these beautiful ideas dead are understood here. And so the reason I'm incredibly excited about online for Xbox is partially because of the promise of online, but people have been talking about that for a long time. My excitement stems from the fact that online is going to be real on Xbox. It really is going to happen. And that's incredible.